Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Building Site. I'm Malcolm Sparks and I'm going to take us through a bit of coding, a bit of chat, and we're going to be focusing again today on GraphQL, but more the fun part about integrating the latest GraphQL work, which I've been doing in a library called Grab, and integrating that with our site project. So let's start by showing some code. So we're going to start, today I'm going to start up with my own local version of site, because we're going to be coding with the site server. So I think I'm just going to, here we are, so I'm going to make the screen a bit bigger and we're going to go into my site project. I usually load up the deps.eden and then I jack in, and we'll just wait for that to come up, and then you should see a REPL appear. And then this is kind of a REPL that we can type into. And then I'm going to show you kind of what I've been working on. So we'll bring up a browser. I think we'll go to Firefox localhost 2021. This time we'll go to a new endpoint which I've created, GraphQL index.html. Okay, that's going to bring us a login box, and then here's the GraphQL browser, and I know what the problem is there. 1 second, I'm just going to do a quick fix. So yeah. So today we're going to be working on this site schema, and I'm trying to create a GraphQL schema that reflects some of the data that we already have in site and expose that. I think more like a system like, well, the Gatsby static site generator has the same idea, that it exposes all of its configuration and details and plugins through a GraphQL interface. We're going to create a similar GraphQL interface for the things we have in site. So that will exercise, we'll have to do a bit of coding, we'll have to create some special resolvers, and so we'll start with the things that we want to expose in this GraphQL API, and that will be what we've got in this file. I've got a schema that begins with, well, this is the default, that we have a query type. We don't really need this strictly, and then we have the ability to see all users and so on. Now I need to deploy this. So the way that I deploy it is that I go into site, into this GraphQL optional area, and I'm going to run a make deploy, and the deploy is going to put this site schema, the one that I was just showing you, going to put that file over this type, and at that path. Notice the underscore site, which is a sort of subdirectory of our website. Okay, let's deploy that. We'll need to get a token first, and that will, okay, we've got the token. Let's deploy. Okay, that was quick, and hopefully that means this error has disappeared. Now this error has to do with my implementation of GraphQL not yet supporting the ability to make things not non-null. Now I put a comment to that effect up here, but that caught me a bit unawares. It breaks the introspection. Introspection in GraphQL is a way that any tool can ask a GraphQL endpoint information about the types that it might have, and the fields that each type has, and so on. And this is how GraphQL is able to show us this information. Now I'm going to build a query which is just going to show our base URI for this server. This is the local host. So if we hit play, I get the base URI. Okay, what if I want to know what server, what port number the service is running on? So I'm going to click on that one, I get 2021, and then this Unix password prefix where I put the passwords, and that's where I store it. That's the subdirectory in my password manager. And that's it so far. We can have status, which is okay. What if we do system? Okay. Well, you get a field error. There's something the matter with the system. So just let's dive in and see what we mean by system. What kinds of information do we have that we'd want to expose to a super user of site, a site administrator? So, okay, we'll fix that system error first. What's going on there? Well, if you see, we have this. Let's take it a bit more slowly. Under our type, if we look in our documentation, under the query, we have a configuration field. That returns a configuration type, and we have these three things in it. And I think there was also system, hang on. Oh yeah, there was also system, and that's going to return a string. Okay, so far so good. Now the way that I've implemented this is that I've given us a special, in the schema, a special directive. And a directive can be really what you like. It can be argument values, and you can put in quite complex input objects here, so we could have lists and so on. But here I've just given the closure symbol of as a string of a function within the code base. So let's dive into and find that function. That will be under source, juxt site alpha GraphQL resolver, and under here there'll be a system. Now if I run system from the REPL, it's going to be an object that looks like this, and that's the cause of our error. If we, for example, to just print it to a string, and we'll eval that, we'll go back here, run it again, and here there's no errors here, it's just stringified our system. Our system in this case, for those of you watching who kind of know Clojure, is a integrant system. Integrant is a library from Weavejester that allows you to compose your the parts of your architecture that make up your server or backend as individual components. And our system is a collection of those components. So our system, if we just have a dive in, let's find out what we have. Okay, we have it might be easier to see the system from the REPL. It's this one here. So what we have is a crux node, and that will tell us a few things about crux. Okay, that's kind of useful to know. Perhaps it's be nicer to not expose this as a kind of a tree hierarchy, but be a bit flatter. So one thing that might be nice to know is our database. The fact that we're running an nREPL server. Let's get some facts about our database then. Okay, let's look at our schema. Okay. Now what is status giving us? That's possibly why it's giving us okay. Okay, let's get rid of status. I really think that's useful. And let's get the system. Okay, as a system entity. Okay, and let's just get rid of that status. And we will return a thing called a system from here. So we can, that's a string, and then we can give system a few useful things. I'd like to know, I'd like to be able to return a thing called a database. So the system is going to have a crux node. So what I do is so what this is going to do is when we ask for system, it's going to call this resolver, which is here. It's going to return us a system, which is a map with all of our information in it. We return, that's now called the object. It's the current object. So that when we ask for the database field on this, we can do something. Now, what should we do? I think we need to create some kind of syntax for this. We need to get some fact. Now, one of the facts that we could get is some information about the database. Okay, so let's ask, okay, what's the status of the database? This is the x2db. Is that nil? Ah. There we are. Ah, right, great. We've got some useful information there. Okay. Okay, well, I'm just trying to think of a good syntax. Why don't we leverage this get in and change that to mean, yeah, we could change that to mean, I was thinking here we might need to call status. This here is a function. So ideally we'd be able to just use this as a path, a bit like getIn, but we also want to call some functions. So we could have a thing where we say, put a colon in front of, meaning, hey, this is a keyword. Let's just play around. I'm just going to call a function x because we're not sure. Ideally, we'd like to say, okay, start with the system, go and get the database node. I'm just kind of wondering if that will work. I don't think it will, because that's not valid syntax for GraphQL. So let's do that instead. Okay. Wonder if we could do something like this. A sort of this sort of thing. Get keyword, a sort of a path. And then we could say given the crux node, we could then call the status, which is Crux API status. And then we could say that could return a database object. And then let's try this. We want to get something about the database, which would be the version. Okay. And that we already know how to do. We have an A. I'm not sure if that's going to survive, but anyway, let's okay. And then we something like this, a sort of a call function, and this becomes the API status. Okay, now all we need to do is implement this special directive. Okay, well, let's just deploy that and see what happens. Okay. Nothing is returned, possibly because we need to reload our metadata. So here we are now. Configuration, we want, oh no, it was system that we wanted. System, database, all fingers and thumbs today. And then version, which we could have done if we just clicked on that one, but anyway. So let's make that our query, and now we have an error. Resolve field database, and there was kind of, these are the arguments, and it's pretty cool actually that GraphQL is able to, like for example, we can bring like a username. I think here we can say not quite sure what we type there. Have a look at the schema. I mean, I don't know why I'm showing you this, but oh yeah, username. So we can say username now, which is my username, and we can run that. What I'm trying to show you here is that GraphQL works pretty well in the face of failure. Here's my user. This is useful. The database is still null, which is a thing you should return in the case of an error. But then, of course, you've got all these errors down here, one of them which is can't resolve field database. So it's been able to provide us back with the data that we do want, which I think is pretty cool. It doesn't just sort of fail fast and give you a 400. But anyway, here we are. We've got an object value here, which is our, well, that's a string. But the idea here is that we kind of go to database from the system. So we go to system first, that returns a system, and then we get this database status. If we look at the GraphQL resolver, we get a system. and yeah, that got. Okay, let's bring in our directive. So how do we do that? Well, here's the code that contains the directives. So in here I'm going to add a new, so this is where let's say, right, what we're going to do if we see an X, we're going to do something, right? I think what we could do, let's remove these print lines, just print it and return that. So return nil. Okay. Run this. Okay, it might have printed something at the REPL. Ah, it did, sort of. It's here. So now we can do a little bit of REPL-driven development. So we're here. So we can do it down here. What we want to do is reduce over this list of commands. So let's reduce a function that takes the command and an accumulator. And so the job of, in fact, we could call it with our system. I think no. Here we go. So let's start with the system. And the first job is to pull out this crux node. So we can say the command is going to have, we can destructure that, which is going to be the command and the arg. Now, we can say if the command is get k, then we turn the arg into a keyword, and we do get on the accumulator, get that keyword. Otherwise, if it's call fn, and I do appreciate the security implications of allowing people to call things from schema, but we're sort of assuming that this schema, uploading a schema, is a privileged activity for now, just so we might sandbox this thing, or there is this idea to call lambdas, but just for now, to keep things going, we're going to do a what's called a, I suppose we could do what's called a requiring resolve, which I think returns I think it resolves the symbol. Let's just try a requiring resolve on, let's try this. Turn it into, what does it want? It wants a symbol, keyword, no, symbol. And there we have it. That returns us something. Okay. Let if it's something, and we'll call it on the accumulator. Otherwise, we will throw a function, say, could not resolve function. Rather a symbol. Well, format with a little symbol there. And put our arg in there. Okay. And so what this should do, we should get the status of this. And indeed we do. That's what that should do. So this we can call a command evaluator, all right. Or like a program evaluator. And this will be the program. And it will put in the program. And takes in the initial object, which will be our and there we are, some REPL-driven development. We can say no command not recognized. Is that how you spell recognized? Can't remember. And we can say okay, and we'll put our command there. Lovely. Okay, so now we have a program evaluator up here. And down here we can run our, let's call it evaluate program or run program. Run program. And we'll, what did I? We'll run it with the object value and then with our program. Okay. So that should return us the database status, and then this should work, and we'll get the database version back out. Let's give that a go. We'll redeploy our schema. We'll refresh our console. We'll have a look at the system. We've got database status, and we've got database version. And here we can go system, database version, and now run this. This should come out as 1.18 if it all works, which it does. First time. I think I got lucky there. Anyway, we can ask for, now we can ask for other things. We've got revision, so let's just do that. We've got revision. Okay. Okay. Index version. That's really useful. Okay, let's do that. That would be an int. Index version. KB store would be kind of useful. So KB store, that would be a string. And estimate number of keys, that would be make that an int. And the size, Okay, I think that's all we need. Let's see if that works. Okay, now we have to redeploy that. Oh, internal server error. Let's have a look at that locally. Should really. Oh, hang on. Token not recognized error. There's a parse error. I bet you it's because it doesn't like hyphens. So we'll just fix this. Sorry if the keyboard's a bit clattery today. I think I might go and use the softer and not the clickety-clack one. I've injured my hand during the week. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but that might have been a reason I wanted a slightly better keyboard, but I'm on the mend. Okay, and let's refresh this. Let's go to system database. Oh, we should. Did it not refresh? Oh no, because we've got to redeploy it. There we are. System database. All these things. I have all the things, please. And we'll run it. Yay! Right, so this is how we're exposing useful data through a GraphQL view. Now we're slightly privileged in this case because we can call out to resolvers. The idea that in a user schema you wouldn't have that capability. We wouldn't enable some of these primit directives. Yeah, we're just exploring now. I guess I can now rewrite the get in. So this is the server port number. We can say get keyword. Let's call that get keyword. That's possibly a better thing to keyword. Let's get rid of this get in, so we can say get keyword IG system. That would be the first, and get keyword server and get keyword. Okay, that should be enough. It's a bit annoying, this Emacs mode for GraphQL, but it's okay, it does the job. Right, now we can possibly get rid of our get in entirely. We have the now we want to make sure that we can still get the port. And in the meantime, I will just have a quick look to see if there's any questions on the Twitch, which I'm pretty awful at checking. No questions. That's good. All right, so now we've got to pick the configuration port and the database version. Yep, that's all working. So let's commit that and wrap up the episode. So yeah, added the ability to query for XTDB database information. Let's pop that over to master. Okay, now we'll might as well deploy it. So we'll go and deploy this. All right. Now I'll go back to a browser and go to the live version of site, which will be still starting at the moment. I'll just keep an eye on that. The other thing locally I'd like to do is I've made a change to lowercase this site. So on the GraphQL browser, if you're following along, the way that you deploy this is, first of all, you build it. This is Alex's work that he's done to create this as a sort of proper React build environment. And then we can deploy it with make deploy. And then that uppercase should go to title case. Let's see if this is back. It is. We need to log in. This is all pretty old stuff at this point, but we should have. Oh, we need to deploy. So I'll go to site. We might as well deploy that one. Oh, got to get a token first. Deploy that, and we'll deploy the GraphQL schema. Oh, that failed. I wonder why it did fail. Have a quick look at this request. Debug it. What went wrong? Oh, we've got the big old schema in here, and what was the error? Oh, that was saying that was all right. Now have a look at the log. Let's deploy that again. This is the error. Oh, put handler is not resolvable. That's usually because there's some code that I left around, possibly a little bit silly of me. I left some code around, doesn't compile possibly. So what we'll do is we'll just start this thing locally, find out what the error was. And yeah, I could have run the tests before I deployed. That would have been a good idea. Oh, a cyclic load dependency. Yes, there's something. I think it's some. Maybe don't load the REPL there. Okay, let's give that a. Technically, this is a site outage. Oh no. Users are going to start getting cross. So we better fix it. I think we did fix it then. We just remove a. Right. Fix cyclic dependency error. That's probably what it was. Okay. Pop that up to master. Where can we just do a pull there? Restart. Give that a go, and then we're going to get a token back. And where is it? Still 502. Still a 502. And I think we're up. Okay, and while we're doing that, make deploy that. So we're deploying the schema. I think, although I can't remember, did we actually deploy the console? I think we did. Okay, so now we should have a console back. We'll have to log in again though. We can go to, I mean, the idea here is to give some nice links to the stuff that we have installed, but this templating is back at the very first episode. I think we did a building site where we covered that. I'll have to watch those myself to figure out what we were doing with it, but we need to update this production thing at some point. Here we go. Right, let's see if we have our database versions, our system, database status, all that stuff. Alex added this Explorer, which is really useful. So we find out what version we're running in prod. I think it's 1.18, I can't be sure. It is 1.18. I wonder how many keys we have. Ooh, 9,000 keys. I wonder what our base URI. It's different. It's the official one. And so on. So I think that just about covers it. Right, well, what did we learn today? Well, we learned how to hack on site's GraphQL facility. Not quite finished, still some more things to do. It's all powered by this library called Grab, which I was working on at the weekend. In particular, I was doing a tricky piece of work down here in execution 6.4.4, and this is, as you saw, the errors that we got were really useful, so I wanted to get those right. But the idea of an error causing a field to become null, but then seeing that error in the error list, there's a subtlety to null actually, because if being null means that that field is therefore, or that object is invalid because there's a non-null constraint, then that whole object becomes null, and that's then bubbles up, and so the parent can be null, and then the parent can be null, and it can just go all the way right up until you don't get any data at all. And so that's what the non-null wrapper is all about in GraphQL. It's quite useful, but it has some subtle nuances to it. So that's what I was doing at the weekend. And so hopefully, in the not too distant future, we will have interfaces, unions, and enums. That's kind of where I've left things with Grab. So a bit more to do. Same with validation. We're down at 5.4 arguments. So we might do some building site episodes where we finish off Grab, or at least do a bit of work just so you can see how that's put together. But I hope this was useful to see how we can take a schema and just define something that is what, from the application's point of view, what the application needs are, rather than what data we already have. And I had a demo of, Alex gave me a demo of Hasura, which is a very interesting product, which has a GraphQL layer on top of a Postgres database. But the big difference with Hasura is that you don't get to edit the schema at all. You kind of get given a schema, or generated a schema with a whole bunch of functionality in it, but you don't get to customize it. It kind of is generated from your relational database schema. So the only way of really updating it is to update the model of. Now the interesting thing there is that it feels a little bit rigid. It means that every application gets a single schema, and if you were to then change some of the tables, then that schema for the applications would change, and possibly then you'd have some refactoring. So there's just feel like there's quite tight coupling between a Hasura application and the underlying schema, which I guess is kind of what we're used to. But this approach of customizing a schema and then making mappings back down to the data model means that you could potentially keep all your applications compatible. You wouldn't have to go back and change the application code. You'd only have to change the underlying mappings held within the schema file. So that's an interesting thing, that it allows the data model to change underneath it, and while you can preserve and commit to the types and fields that you specified in the schema. All interesting adventures made possible by the wonderful X2DB database that we're using underneath this. I think there's much more things that X2DB will be able to do in the future. I mean, we're talking about some exciting new bitemporal features that it will have, which I'll be able to demonstrate in one of the episodes, hopefully before Christmas. We'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching. That was another episode, and we'll see you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.